Welcome to Mr. V Teaching Math. In this session, we're going to look at one of the more challenging topics in this particular unit that I do, and that's translating English into math. Math is its own language. It has its own rules. And making the translation between English, which has its own set of rules on occasion, once in a while, is often a challenge. Math is very specific and strict about its rules. English isn't. And much like translating into other languages, it doesn't always go smoothly. The first thing that we need to have is vocabulary. What vocabulary do we know that translates between these two languages? In this video session, we'll go over what the vocabulary is. On the left here, we'll have an English expression, and on the right, we'll have the mathematical symbol that matches it. We'll start with the relatively speaking easier one. We'll start with addition. Sum, plus, and, more, increased by, in all, total, how many, altogether, deposit. Each one of these is a way of saying addition in English. I don't even have an addition on this list. There are many others that can be added to this list that are not here. You'll notice that one of them is in bold and underlined. That's important. We're coming back to that in a little while. Subtraction. We can say difference, minus, remove, take away, less, decreased by, fewer, how many left, how many more, withdraw, take 7 out of, or 8 out of, or something out of. All of those can mean subtraction. Again, you'll note, difference is underlined and in bold. That's important. Those two are relatively simple. Now we're going to move on to something that isn't so simple. You will note there's a whole bunch of different ways of showing it. So we're going to go over that for just a moment to make sure you know them all. Multiplication can be shown in the following ways. 3 times 3. And if you look at our list, that's the first one, 3 times 3. This one is a little harder to see on this handout I made. This can be 3 times 3. Notice the position of the dot. If you put the dot too low, it's a decimal. But here, this can be times 3. I don't use that very often, but it can be. Could also do this. That would be 3 times 3. This would also be 3 times 3. Or a number sitting outside of brackets. And then there's a final example. If you use the star, this is often used in computer languages, Excel spreadsheets and the like. All of that is multiplication. Now, let's look at the words in English that translate. Product of times by double, triple, quadruple, and so on. Multiply, 5 groups of 7 equals. All of that can mean multiplication. You'll notice that product is bold and underlined. And you'll notice that of is just in bold. We'll come back to those again in a little while. Now let's look at division. Again, there are a number of different symbols. We have the 4 divided by 3. We can have 4 divided by 3. We can also have 4 divided by 3, and we can have 4 divided by 3. All of those symbols mean division. In English, there are a number of phrases once again. Quotient, out of. How many 5s go in? Divided evenly between 7 people. Fraction, division. How many groups can this go into? A number over another number. 4 over 3, for instance. All of these are English ways of saying division. Notice again, quotient, bold and underlined, out of, just in bold. One more word it's important to know, the word is. If you see the word is, that is an equal sign. Now let's go back to the ones that I've bolded and underlined. First, put brackets around the question if bold and underlined. Sum, difference, product, and quotient. Each of those, if you see that in an English sentence, you need to put brackets around it. And that matters because it changes the order of operations, which we've learned about earlier. So anytime you see sum, difference, product, or quotient, there's brackets in there. Just put them in. Now, the 6 most important ones are in bold. So sum, difference, product, quotient, you have to know those. Of and out of, also, you have to have memorized. And this is difficult because of is multiplication, but out of is division. So you have to be very, very careful. Always look for the word of. If you see of, it means you're going to do some multiplying. But you got to watch out for the times when it says out of. And note also under difference, take something out of, that could be a problem as well. This one is quite rare, doesn't happen as often. Of happens a lot, and out of happens fairly frequently as well. That's the vocabulary that you need in order to be able to understand and work in translating English into math. In the next video series, we'll do a whole series of examples of how to use this.